chosen one, listen carefully. If your life feels strange right now, not painful enough to call it a breakdown, not clear enough to call it progress, if you wake up and feel like something is off, but you can't explain what, this message is for you. Because the phase you're in doesn't have a name, and that's exactly why it feels so uncomfortable. Nobody prepares you for this part of life. People talk about success, they talk about healing, they talk about growth, but nobody talks about the in-between. That space where you don't recognize yourself anymore, but you haven't met the new version of you yet. That space where old habits don't work, old motivations feel fake, and old dreams don't excite you the same way. You're not broken, you're not lazy, you're not losing your mind. You're transitioning, and transitions are quiet, confusing, and lonely. There's a reason this phase feels weird. It's because your old identity is slowly losing its grip, but your new identity hasn't fully landed yet. You're standing between who you were and who you're becoming, and that place has no language. That's why when people ask you, "What's wrong?" you don't know what to say. You just say, "I'm fine." But inside, you know you're not fine the way you used to be. And you're not excited the way you thought you would be either. This is the phase where your soul is recalibrating. What used to motivate you no longer works. What used to distract you doesn't distract you anymore. What used to hurt you doesn't hurt the same way. And that scares people, including you, because humans like labels, we like clarity, we like timelines. But this phase refuses to be labeled. It's not depression, it's not happiness, it's not failure, it's not success, it's something deeper. It's a quiet undoing, a stripping away of versions of you that were built to survive, not to live. You see, there's a version of you that learned how to cope, how to endure, how to stay functional while carrying too much. That version did its job, but it can't take you where you're going next. So now life feels awkward. You feel sensitive for no reason, tired without being physically tired, disconnected without wanting to be alone. You scroll more, you think more, you feel less certain. And here's the dangerous part. This is where most people panic. They rush back to old patterns, old relationships, old distractions, old versions of themselves, just to feel familiar again. But familiarity is not the same as alignment. And this phase exists to break that addiction. There is something prophetic about what you're experiencing, not in a dramatic way, but in a deeply personal way, because something is being rewritten inside you. Your tolerance is changing, your values are shifting, your nervous system is learning a new rhythm. That's why loud places feel louder. That's why fake conversations drain you faster. That's why you crave silence but don't know what to do with it. You're not regressing, you're being refined. This phase feels like loss because parts of you are dissolving. But what's dissolving was never meant to last forever. You don't grieve it publicly because people wouldn't understand. They'd say, "But everything seems fine." And that's the hardest part. Outwardly, things may look stable, but inwardly the structure is being rebuilt. Foundation work is always messy and invisible. This is where clarity starts forming, not in your thoughts, but in your tolerance. You start noticing what you can no longer tolerate, what no longer feels right, what no longer deserves access to you, and you don't even know why. That's intuition waking up. That's discernment sharpening. That's the inner compass recalibrating. But because it doesn't come with fireworks or announcements, you question it. You wonder if you're wasting time, if you're falling behind, if everyone else has figured life out except you. Let me say this clearly. Everyone who is becoming something meaningful passes through this unnamed phase. Every deep transformation begins with disorientation. The caterpillar doesn't know it's becoming a butterfly, it just knows it can't stay what it was. And right now, staying who you were feels impossible. That's not weakness, that's evolution. You're being prepared for a level of clarity that cannot exist inside your old identity. That's why motivation feels inconsistent. That's why goals feel blurry. That's why rest feels necessary but never fully restful. You're not meant to force answers in this phase. You're meant to listen to slow down enough to notice what's emerging instead of what's disappearing. Because something new is forming, not just around you, but within you. A new way of seeing, a new way of choosing, a new way of responding. This phase teaches you something powerful. You don't need to have it all figured out to be exactly where you're supposed to be. The discomfort is not a sign to escape, it's a sign to stay present, to sit with the uncertainty without trying to fix it too quickly. Because clarity doesn't arrive loudly, it arrives quietly after you stop running. And one day, without warning, things will start to make sense again. Not all at once, not dramatically, but subtly. You'll notice your reactions changing, your boundaries strengthening, your focus sharpening. And you'll realize this phase wasn't punishment. It was preparation. You weren't lost. You were early. Early to the version of you that no longer needs chaos to feel alive. Early to the version of you that chooses peace without guilt. Early to the version of you that moves with intention instead of urgency. This unnamed phase is not meant to last forever, but it is meant to change you. So if life feels weird right now, if you can't explain what's happening, if nothing fits the way it used to, take a breath. Nothing is wrong with you. You're just becoming someone who hasn't been named yet. And when that version finally steps forward, you'll look back at this phase and understand why it couldn't be rushed. There's another layer to this phase that most people never talk about. It's not just that life feels weird. It's that you feel unfamiliar to yourself. You catch yourself reacting differently, caring less about things that once controlled you, overthinking things you never questioned before. And that makes you wonder, what's happening to me? This is the moment where your inner world starts leading instead of your outer world. For years, your decisions were shaped by survival, by pressure, by expectations, by fear of falling behind. But now something inside you is asking different questions. Not, how do I prove myself? But, why am I even chasing this? Not, what will people think? But, does this cost me my peace? And those questions are uncomfortable because they don't come with instant answers. This is the phase where distractions stop working. You try to escape into scrolling, noise, people, routines, but nothing sticks. Your mind keeps pulling you back inward. That's not boredom. That's your inner voice getting louder. And for the first time, you can't ignore it. You're being invited into depth. And depth always feels isolating before it feels empowering. This is why you feel misunderstood lately, even by people who love you. You don't have the words to explain what you're going through, and they don't have the patience to sit in uncertainty with you. So you go quiet, not because you have nothing to say, but because what's forming inside you isn't ready to be spoken yet. This is not withdrawal. This is incubation. You're learning how to sit with yourself without performing, without fixing, without numbing. And that's hard, because silence exposes things you've been avoiding. Unprocessed grief, unspoken anger, dreams you buried because they felt unrealistic, truths you postponed because they would change everything. This phase brings all of that to the surface, not to overwhelm you, but to free you. You're realizing that much of what you called normal was actually misalignment. You were functional, not fulfilled, busy, not connected, strong but exhausted. And strength that comes from suppression always has an expiration date. So now your system is asking for honesty. Not dramatic honesty, quiet honesty. The kind where you finally admit to yourself that certain paths no longer fit, even if they look good on the outside. That certain relationships feel heavy, even if they're familiar. That certain goals don't excite you, even if you worked hard for them. And that creates guilt. Because you think, I should be grateful, but gratitude does not mean self-betrayal. You can appreciate where you've been and still admit you're not meant to stay there. This phase is about recalibration. Your internal compass is adjusting. And just like a GPS recalculating a route, it gets quiet before it gets clear. You don't feel driven the way you used to, because you're no longer being pushed by fear, but you haven't learned how to move from alignment yet. So everything feels slow, uncertain, suspended. This is where patience is forged. Not patience with life, but patience with yourself. You're learning that becoming someone new requires letting go of urgency. That rushing clarity only delays it. This phase teaches you discernment. You start noticing who drains you, what overstimulates you, what conversations feel empty, and you stop forcing yourself to stay where you no longer belong, not out of arrogance, out of self-respect. That shift alone can feel like loss. Because when you stop over-giving, some people disappear. When you stop explaining yourself, some people misunderstand you. When you stop chasing validation, some doors close. But those doors were connected to an older version of you, and that version can't lead you forward. This is where trust is tested. Not trust in outcomes, but trust in your inner timing. You don't see the full picture yet. You just feel the pull, a pull toward simplicity, toward depth, toward truth. And even though it feels uncomfortable, there's a strange calm underneath it. That calm is your signal. It means you're aligned even when you're unsure. This phase strips away external definitions of success. You stop asking, am I ahead or behind? And start asking, am I honest with myself? That question alone changes everything. Because honesty demands courage. It demands you admit that some chapters ended quietly, that some versions of you expired without ceremony, that some dreams were necessary stepping stones, not final destinations. And that doesn't make you a failure, it makes you awake. This unnamed phase is where wisdom forms, not book knowledge, lived knowledge. The kind that comes from sitting in uncertainty, without running back to comfort. The kind that teaches you how to choose peace even when excitement is absent. The kind that prepares you for a future that requires clarity more than hustle. One day you'll realize this phase trained you to listen, to pause, to feel without reacting. And when life accelerates again, because it will, you'll move differently. With intention, with boundaries, with discernment. You won't chase what isn't aligned. You won't force what isn't ready. You won't shrink to fit outdated spaces. Because this phase quietly taught you who you are. Not through labels, not through titles, but through awareness. So if today still feels strange, if you still feel suspended between who you were and who you're becoming, let that be okay. You are not meant to rush this. This is the space where your future self is being built without pressure, without noise, without performance. And when you finally step out of this phase, you won't need to explain it to anyone. Your presence will speak for itself.